Remember, they're changing my voice. Okay, now let's look at this carefully. We know that there's a bunch of people into witchcraft these days, witch videos everywhere, long fingernails, you name it. Witchcraft, the occult, Satanism, and an all-time high. You know, they say that the atheist movement is the fastest growing movement, but it's actually, you know, paganism is Satanism in its various forms. You see the goths and the emos, okay, and the Satanists, they look nearly identical, okay? The tongue out like the devil, and you see it's so common in all these cultures, okay? So you have satanic altars and symbols, right? What is an altar, right? It changes the way you think. And we look at this, we see all these people looking spaced out. They look like they have an alter ego or personality. We look at their eyes. Look at this person right here, unbelievable. Look how spaced out that person is. And we know there's a bunch of people in you know, the left, for example, a bunch of techies, a bunch of entertainers like K-pop and what have you. Okay, a bunch of Greek societies, fraternities, college frats and sororities. Okay, a bunch of social clubs, a bunch of feminist groups, feminist witches, occult feminists, you know. I think I have a picture of this thing over here somewhere. Oh, it's over here. Then you see it says American woman, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is obviously Satanism. So they're saying the American woman is a Satanist and that she's a rock and roll Satanist, as Lenny Kravitz, right? And here we have the New Republic, you know, Levi Kravitz video, and that's the female from the video. The New Republic Feminists of Zion, right? So we know that there's a bunch of basically, you know, you might call them agnostic, pagan interest, you know, like they're interested in pagan enthusiasts without necessarily believing in it. Okay, satanic feminists. You know, there are liberals, but obviously conservatives, you know, are historically the main Satanists because it has to do with, you know, the Klan, has to do with, you know, all these conservative truck drivers with their skulls in their backyard next to their empty, you know, bottles of alcohol that they got when they went to Mexico or something. They usually have a nice little collection, and they have a skull head there. A lot of conservatives listen to rock and roll too, so it's a left-right, you know. So you see over here the satanic feminist, and it looks nearly identical to the depiction of the Jewish Zionist from the New Republic magazine. It says the feminists of Zion. It's even called the New Republic, right? And there's a kind of liberal, right, democratic kind of look to it. So when you understand these terms and how the Democratic Republican, there used to be a party in America called Democratic Republicans, okay? So if you understand the history of these things, it's straightforward. You know, they're filming me, making it hard for me to speak, but you see how it also connects to Pan and rape, right? The GOAT, rock and roll, the Baphomet, MK Ultra, is cult, Ram, scrambled. I mean, it all comes together a certain way, okay? Now, what are they being brainwashed to do? Well, it's like the movie Labyrinth, right? Labyrinth. And you have this kind of troll, this kind of pagan-looking person, looking Muppet, rather. And she says, you're like Mr. Horsey, da-da-da-da-da. Says everything in the world you ever cared about is in the little room that they're in. And she's trying to distract her from her point. She says, something I was looking for. She says, oh, don't talk nonsense. It's all here, what have you. And she says, something I was missing. She picks up the book called The Labyrinth. Of course, Bible is a play on words for Bybel, whose other name is Baal. And the word Baal is a lab scrambled. A labyrinth, right? A mental labyrinth, a lab. Okay, the minister, and to administer drugs. It's not a coincidence that these things come together like that. And of course, you see in this movie, Escape from LA, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but this stuff connects together, and you're an idiot if you think it doesn't. Look at these people, look like sex, drugs, and rock and roll type people. Escape from LA. It's, who's this guy's name? It's like Kirk Douglas, right? And you have this guy looking like a rock and roll guy, and he's beating this person up in a kind of satanic way. And here's a satanic martial art demon from the Tekken Tekken Tag Tournament, right? And Tekken, part of how they, you know, program their characters or came up with their characters' moves is they put a bunch of sensors on martial artists, and they had the computer kind of absorb the moves and put it into a character. Okay, so they had the computer, you know, taking the data. So here, you know, again, Escape from LA, they're holding guns, and they're standing in like a Colosseum-like formation, and they're having a gladiator-like tournament. Again, the neo-Roman, neo-pagan, the connections to the Greco-Roman societies, the Greek societies, the Greek wrestling. you know, what have you. Okay, LGBT community, what have you. So you should understand that what's going on is there's a bunch of Satanists. Look at this female, for example. She pretends to be a Christian. Look at her face, right? It's disassociated. It looks angry. Right? There's some person I was looking at earlier. Okay, it's this guy. Look at this guy's face, right? He's obviously a Satanist, rock and roll guy, what have you. Looks nearly identical in his facial expression and his kind of his projection. And this person is not claiming that they're changing their videos. Okay, like they're changing mine. They're just saying, hey, that's who I am. It may as well look like that, right? Because they're a Satanist, saying they're a Christian, and they're trying to advise people on dating. They made a series of videos with lots of views, trying to tell people what to look for, and arguing that God breaks up relationships that aren't meant to be, when everyone knows there's a bunch of technology and social control these days, and there's a bunch of people who work behind the scenes who manipulate relationships. There's psychologists, psychological operations, there's corporate groups, marketing groups, there's social clubs, gentlemen's clubs, secret societies, frats and sororities that tell people to date. That's why it's called fraternizing. There's a bunch of frats in the state with all their technologies and mind control technology, mind reading technology that's been discussed on CNN and MSNBC and so on and so forth. And here she's saying, hey, you know, if you don't share the same beliefs, if it doesn't feel right, they can manipulate your feelings. They can read your mind remotely. And she's arguing that if it doesn't feel right, that you should leave the person. You know, and they're assisting in the mind control. This is why a bunch of liberals got involved in meditation and mindfulness, because it has to do with, you know, the brain activity that they can remotely scan and manipulate with frequencies and substances in the air and food. You can't make this up. You think I'm making it up, man? And you've been sleeping. You know, you've been born yesterday or something. Excuse me. You must have been born yesterday. Look at these people's faces. You think these people are all on drugs and that's all there is to it? No way. I've been on social media for a long, long time. I've seen people high on cocaine, you name it. Okay, in their pictures, seen people drunk. These people, yeah, a lot of them do smoke weed. Okay, a lot of them have little drinks. But it's clear cut. I'm like the expert on this because I've seen it so many times. Okay, I live in California. These people are acting like this first and foremost because of their genetic, qualities, and secondly because they're hooked to a machine remotely using frequencies and what perhaps is best described as particle technology, nanotechnology, microscopic technologies designed to kind of map the brain activity and to allow for remote manipulation of the brain. Okay? This might be the hardest thing I've ever said for you to believe, but it's so obvious there's no words for it. Okay? I'm sure she just took one hit of a joint, right? Bullshit. That person smokes weed, they've probably been smoking weed for years. They wouldn't look like their first hit all over again, times 10, times 5 shots or something. No way. You think everyone just happens to be high as hell or drunk out of their mind before they make a TikTok video? Extremely unlikely.